6 a.m. Two patrol cars, my wife in handcuffs, Brenda on her porch looking smugger than a cat with a canary. Then Elena showed her badge, and everything flipped. Picture this. I'm standing in my Phoenix driveway in my pajamas, watching our HOA president orchestrate what she thinks is the arrest of the century. The morning desert air carries that sharp scent of creosote and impending justice, while the metallic click of handcuffs echoes off our perfectly manicured suburban street. Brenda had called 911 reporting federal impersonation and ongoing criminal activity. She'd even invited Channel 12 News because apparently public humiliation wasn't complete without cameras rolling. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for impersonating a federal officer," the cop announces, exactly like Brenda had scripted it. Then my wife calmly says, "Officer, may I show you my Department of Justice credentials?" The badge comes out. Brenda's smug grin evaporates faster than water on summer asphalt. And suddenly, the woman who'd been screaming about law and order was about to learn what actual federal crimes look like. Let me back up 18 months to when this nightmare started. My name's Marcus. I'm 45, Navy veteran turned telecommunications contractor who thought he'd found paradise in suburbia. My wife Elena, she's the kind of woman who makes criminals nervous just by existing. 15 years with the Department of Justice Financial Crimes Division. She's taken down money launderers, embezzlers, and white-collar scumbags who thought they were untouchable. But to our neighbors in Willowbrook Estates, she was just the unemployed woman who slept till noon. Willowbrook is one of those planned communities outside Phoenix where conformity isn't just encouraged, it's weaponized. Every lawn trimmed to exactly 2 inches. Every mailbox painted regulation beige. The morning air always smells like fresh-cut Bermuda grass mixed with the faint desperation of people trying to maintain property values. Then there's Brenda Hutchinson, our HOA president and full-time professional busybody. Picture a woman who spent 30 years as a bank manager, got forced into early retirement, and decided to channel all that middle management energy into terrorizing a gated community. At 58, she'd found her calling making other people's lives miserable with the power of bylaws and violation notices. Every morning at exactly 7 a.m., Brenda would emerge from her beige fortress in her pink tracksuit, clipboard clutched like a shield, prowling the streets for infractions. From day one, Brenda fixated on Elena with laser focus. See, when you work undercover financial crimes, your schedule doesn't exactly scream suburban soccer mom. Elena would leave at midnight for surveillance, sleep until noon, drive different government vehicles, and occasionally come home wearing gear that could stop a bullet. To Brenda's narrow worldview, this could only mean one thing. Elena was trouble. I'm just saying, Brenda would stage whisper to anyone with an earshot. Normal people have normal jobs. What kind of woman drives a different car every week and sleeps all day? Makes you wonder what she's really doing for money. The paranoia escalated when Elena started working a major cryptocurrency fraud case. More late nights, more gear, more mysterious phone calls in federal agent speak. The breaking point came on an October morning when Elena was conducting legitimate surveillance from our driveway. She's sitting in her unmarked sedan, wearing a tactical vest, earpiece barely visible, doing actual federal agent work. Brenda spotted her and apparently decided Elena was playing the world's most elaborate game of cops and robbers. 20 minutes later, she's pounding on my door like she's serving a warrant. This ends today, Marcus. Brenda's face was flushed red against her pink tracksuit. I don't know what kind of sick fantasy your wife is living out, but impersonating a police officer is a federal crime. She thrust a violation notice at me. 24 hours to make her stop this ridiculous charade or I'm calling the real police. I tried diplomacy. Brenda, I think you might be misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, she snapped. I've documented everything. The costume, the fake radio, the suspicious scars. She's going to destroy our property values with this nonsense. That evening, Elena read the notice and started laughing. The kind of laugh that means someone's about to have a very bad time. 15 years taking down federal criminals, she said, and I get a violation notice for looking like myself. Brenda didn't waste time turning her vendetta into a community crusade. Within 48 hours, she'd scheduled an emergency HOA board meeting and hired an attorney at $300 an hour. The certified letter arrived thick as a phone book. Notice of formal HOA hearing regarding ongoing criminal impersonation violations. 3 pages of legal intimidation demanding Elena cease and desist all law enforcement cosplay activities or face a property lien. But here's the thing about spending 8 years dealing with military regulations. You learn to read the fine print. I poured myself coffee and started hunting for ammunition. Jackpot came on page 47. Section 4.3 clearly stated that HOA presidents cannot authorize legal expenses over $250 without a majority board vote. Brenda had just blown past that limit solo. Even better, Section 7.1 made board members personally liable for unauthorized expenses. I fired off a counter-complaint that same afternoon. Meanwhile, our neighborhood Facebook group erupted into digital warfare. Brenda posted carefully cropped photos of Elena in tactical gear with captions like "Community safety concerns" and "When does roleplay become dangerous?" But Brenda's masterstroke was organizing a community safety discussion for Sunday evening. The flyers promised to address protecting our property values from disruptive elements. Elena and I decided to attend. The community center smelled like burnt coffee mixed with industrial carpet cleaner. About 30 residents showed up, tension thick enough to choke on. Brenda had prepared an actual PowerPoint presentation titled "Signs of Criminal Activity and Protecting Your Investment." She was deep into her performance when Elena's phone rang. Her federal supervisor calling about a case development. "Yes, sir." Elena answered, stepping toward the hallway. "Surveillance resumes at 0600 tomorrow. Asset placement confirmed. Professional, concise, exactly how federal agents communicate." But Brenda heard every word and apparently decided Elena was escalating her fantasy to new heights. "Did everyone hear that?" Brenda announced, practically vibrating with vindicated smugness. "Military time, surveillance talk. She's talking like she's in some kind of action movie. This is exactly the dangerous behavior I'm warning you about." Elena returned to find 30 pairs of eyes staring at her. "Everything okay?" she asked, genuinely puzzled. "Oh, everything's perfect," Brenda replied, her smile sharp enough to slice diamonds. "I was just explaining to our neighbors how seriously the FBI takes federal impersonation crimes." "You know what, Brenda?" Elena said calmly. "You should absolutely call the FBI. I think they'd be very interested in this situation." Brenda's smile widened. "Don't worry, honey. I plan to." Monday morning arrived with the kind of desert heat that makes smart people stay indoors. But Brenda wasn't about to let common sense stop her crusade. At exactly 8:47 a.m., she marched into the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to file a formal police report against Elena for federal impersonation and ongoing criminal enterprise. I know the details because Officer Rodriguez called me that afternoon. "Marcus, I got to ask, your wife isn't running some elaborate con game, is she? Because this lady just walked in here with enough documentation to prosecute a war crimes tribunal." Brenda had apparently spent the weekend crafting her evidence portfolio. A 3-ring binder that would make FBI profilers weep with envy. Photos of Elena in tactical gear, timestamped logs, pictures of different government vehicles, transcripts of overheard conversations, and printed articles about federal impersonation penalties. The woman had basically created a federal case against a federal agent. Here's what Brenda didn't realize. When someone reports federal impersonation, the first thing any competent cop does is run the suspect's vehicle registration. Elena's unmarked sedan came back flagged as an active Department of Justice asset, Criminal Division. Rodriguez showed up at our door 2 hours later. Elena was in the backyard deadheading her roses, still wearing tactical pants from an early morning surveillance. "Ma'am, I need to follow up on some allegations. Can I see some identification?" Rodriguez said. Elena wiped her hands and produced her federal credentials. "Badge, ID card, the works." Rodriguez examined them like ancient artifacts, then called dispatch to verify. The radio crackled. "Badge 847392 confirmed active DOJ Criminal Division agent Elena Vasquez, 15-year service record." Ma'am, I apologize for the intrusion. I had to follow protocol. No problem, officer. What exactly was I accused of? Federal impersonation, running illegal security services, and this is my favorite part, conducting suspicious surveillance activities that threaten community property values. Elena burst out laughing. But Rodriguez wasn't laughing anymore. Ma'am, you should know that filing false reports against federal agents falls under Title 18, Section 101. Carries up to 5 years. I watched Elena's expression shift from amusement to professional interest. I'm not looking to press charges, she said carefully. The woman seems genuinely confused. With respect, ma'am, this wasn't confusion. This was 3 days of deliberate investigation culminating in fabricated criminal allegations. That's different. That evening, Brenda returned with reinforcements. Harold from down the street and Mrs. Patterson from the corner house. I saw the police were here, Brenda announced. When are they taking her in for processing? They're not, I replied. Well, turns out Elena actually is a federal agent. Crazy how reality works sometimes. The silence was complete. That's impossible, Brenda sputtered. Elena appeared behind me, badge case in hand. DOJ Criminal Division badge 847392. Want to call and verify? Instead of backing down, Brenda's desperation kicked into overdrive. Then you fooled them, too. Professional criminals can fake anything. I'm calling the FBI. As her delegation retreated, Elena shook her head. She's about to call the FBI on someone who works with the FBI. Brenda didn't just call the FBI. She went full nuclear and filed a formal complaint through their online portal, complete with a 40-page dossier. Screenshots, timelines, witness statements, and enough circumstantial evidence to prosecute a RICO case. Her complaint alleged Elena was running an elaborate criminal enterprise involving federal impersonation, illegal surveillance, and potential terrorism preparation. The FBI's Phoenix field office received Brenda's magnum opus on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Special Agent Thompson was calling Elena directly. Agent Vasquez, we received an interesting complaint about you today. Mind if I ask what you're working on that might have attracted civilian attention? Elena nearly choked on her coffee. Sir, I'm conducting financial surveillance on the Morrison crypto case. Standard white-collar stuff. Well, according to Mrs. Hutchinson, you're either running a sophisticated criminal operation or you're the most dedicated method actor in Arizona. Meanwhile, I'd been busy with my own research project. Remember, I spent 8 years in the Navy dealing with bureaucratic nightmares, so I knew how to weaponize government paperwork. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request for Brenda's FBI complaint. The response arrived 2 weeks later, and it was a masterpiece of paranoid delusion. But here's where it got legally interesting. Filing false reports to federal agencies isn't just a crime. It's a federal crime that carries real consequences. Brenda was about to discover the wisdom of that advice. Brenda, emboldened by her FBI complaint, called an emergency HOA meeting for the following Tuesday. The agenda item read, Community Safety, addressing ongoing criminal activity and federal cover-ups. She'd also invited Channel 12 News, claiming the story involved federal corruption. While Brenda was busy building her federal conspiracy case, I was doing what any reasonable telecom contractor would do, following the money. My business involves financial software integration, which means I know how to read spreadsheets and spot irregularities. The HOA's monthly financial reports had been nagging at me for weeks. Something felt off about the numbers. So I did what Elena always taught me. When something doesn't add up, follow the money trail. Our HOA collected roughly $180,000 annually in fees from 96 households. Standard expenses included landscaping, pool maintenance, insurance, and administrative costs. Simple math, predictable patterns, except Brenda's reports showed expenditures that made Las Vegas spending look conservative. The red flags started with consulting fees. Over the past 18 months, the HOA had paid $23,000 to something called Desert Management Solutions for administrative consulting services. Problem was, I'd Never seen any consultants. Then there was Pinnacle Landscaping Services. $31,000 for enhanced community beautification projects. Our landscaping looked exactly the same as when we moved in. But the real smoking gun was buried in the credit card statements. Brenda had been using the community credit card for purchases that ranged from suspicious to downright brazen. Grocery stores, department stores, gas stations, and what appeared to be vacation rentals in Sedona. I cross-referenced every vendor payment with actual services rendered. The pattern was textbook embezzlement. Create fake companies, submit false invoices, approve payments to herself, and cover the tracks with aggressive leadership tactics. Elena found me at 2 a.m. hunched over my laptop, surrounded by printed bank statements. "Honey, what are you doing?" "Your neighbor's been stealing from the community," I said. $47,000 over 2 years, maybe more. Elena leaned over my shoulder, her financial crimes training automatically analyzing the evidence. Shell companies, false invoicing, credit card fraud. This is textbook white-collar theft. The irony was so perfect it hurt. Brenda had been accusing a federal financial crimes investigator of criminal activity while running her own embezzlement operation. "Can you do anything about it?" I asked. "Officially, no. This would be a massive conflict of interest for me to investigate. But Marcus, HOA embezzlement falls under state jurisdiction. Arizona Revised Statutes, Title 13, theft charges become felonies when the amount exceeds $10,000. She was right. Brenda had crossed the line from petty power tripping into serious criminal territory. "There's more," I said. "She's been covering the missing money by deferring maintenance, cutting insurance coverage, and skipping required inspections." Elena sat down heavily. "So while she's been harassing us about imaginary crimes, she's been committing real ones that could bankrupt every homeowner in Willowbrook." "Pretty much." "Well," Elena said with a smile that would have made sharks nervous, "I think Mrs. Hutchinson is about to discover what actual criminal investigation looks like." That weekend, I transformed our dining room into a war room. But I wasn't working alone. Elena might not be able to officially investigate, but she could teach me how to build an airtight case. "First rule of financial investigation," she said. "Document everything, assume nothing, and always follow the paper trail to its source." Our first recruit was Roberto Martinez, a retired CPA who lived 4 houses down. Roberto had spent 30 years auditing corporate books for the state of Arizona. When I showed him Brenda's creative accounting, his eyes lit up. "This is beautiful," he said. "She's got shell companies, inflated invoices, personal expenses disguised as community costs. It's like a textbook case study in small-scale embezzlement." Roberto agreed to conduct a formal forensic analysis. Next was Sarah Kellerman, a former paralegal who'd moved to Willowbrook after her husband's retirement. "Arizona Revised Statutes are very clear about HOA embezzlement," she explained. "Any board member who misappropriates community funds commits theft in the first degree if the amount exceeds $10,000. Brenda's looking at a Class 3 felony which carries 2 to 8 years in prison." Our third ally was Tom Bradley, a Marine veteran who'd retired from 25 years of military police work. "The key is building multiple cases simultaneously," Tom explained. "Civil case for recovery of funds, criminal case for prosecution, and HOA action for removal from the board." Elena provided guidance that transformed our amateur investigation into something resembling professional law enforcement. She couldn't officially participate, but she could teach us proper evidence handling procedures. "Never assume malice when incompetence might explain the behavior," she warned. "But when you find systematic patterns over extended periods, that's usually intentional criminal activity." Roberto's financial analysis revealed the full scope of Brenda's operation. She'd created 3 shell companies, all registered to post office boxes she controlled. Desert Management Solutions, Pinnacle Landscaping Services, and Willowbrook Security Consulting existed only on paper, but they'd collected over $47,000 in community funds. By Sunday evening, we had enough evidence to support both criminal charges and civil recovery actions. More importantly, we had a plan that would expose Brenda's crimes. at exactly the moment she tried to destroy Elena's reputation. Monday morning brought frantic energy. Brenda had somehow gotten wind that residents were asking questions about HOA finances, and she went into full damage control mode. The first sign of panic came at 6 a.m. when she called an emergency board meeting. By 10 a.m., Brenda was at the community center with a paper shredder that sounded like a wood chipper having a nervous breakdown. Jennifer, who'd been walking her dog, happened to film the spectacle. 20 minutes of video showing our HOA president frantically shredding documents would make excellent evidence later. Meanwhile, Brenda was making phone calls that would have impressed a mafia boss. But Brenda's masterpiece was the voicemail she left for Elena's supervisor. "This is Brenda Hutchinson and I'm calling to report gross misconduct by one of your agents. Elena Vasquez is using federal resources to intimidate law-abiding citizens." That afternoon's emergency board meeting was a masterclass in authoritarian overreach. Brenda tried to ram through several motions designed to consolidate her power. Motion 1, immediate hiring of a financial security firm to protect community assets. Motion 2, new bylaws requiring unanimous board approval for any financial document requests. Motion 3, emergency assessment of $500 per household to address security concerns. When Harold asked for details, she literally said, "That's classified information for board members only." But the real fireworks came when Elena's supervisor actually called her back. Deputy Assistant Director Olivia had done her homework and discovered Brenda had been filing complaints with multiple federal agencies. "Elena, this woman has now contacted the FBI, DA, ATF, and Homeland Security. She's actively interfering with a federal employee's ability to perform her duties. Ma'am, I think the situation is going to resolve itself tomorrow night," Elena said. "She's planning a public confrontation where she expects to have me arrested. Instead, she's going to discover what happens when the evidence goes the other way." Tuesday arrived with electric tension, and Brenda was about to unleash the mother of all disasters. She'd spent the morning transforming the community center into her personal courtroom. The smell of burnt coffee and nervous energy filled the air as residents filed in. Brenda had invited everyone. Channel 12 News, the sheriff's office, representatives from federal agencies, and half the neighborhood. Tonight, she announced, justice will finally be served. For too long, this community has been terrorized by criminal elements masquerading as law enforcement. Her PowerPoint presentation was titled Operation Neighborhood Watch, exposing federal corruption and criminal conspiracy. Elena and I sat in the back row with our team, watching Brenda orchestrate her own destruction. Brenda's presentation started with surveillance photos of Elena. "Subject exhibits classic patterns of criminal surveillance behavior," she announced, pointing at pictures of Elena watering her garden while wearing tactical pants. The room was dead silent except for the news camera. But the real showstopper came when Brenda unveiled her evidence of federal conspiracy. She'd somehow obtained copies of Elena's work emails and was projecting them on the screen. "Look at this coded language," she said. "This is clearly criminal communication disguised as official business." Officer Rodriguez finally stood up. "Ma'am, those look like legitimate federal communications. Where exactly did you obtain federal emails?" Brenda's face flushed red. "A concerned citizen provided them." "Ma'am, intercepting federal communications without authorization is a federal crime." Instead of backing down, Brenda doubled down. "I demand immediate arrest of the subject for federal impersonation," she shouted, pointing at Elena. That's when Elena stood up, badge case in hand. "Ma'am," she said calmly, "I'm Special Agent Elena Vasquez, Department of Justice. Badge number 847392. Would you like to call DOJ headquarters to verify?" The silence was complete. Brenda's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The news camera zoomed in on her face, capturing the exact moment reality crashed into delusion. "That's fake," she screamed. "Professional criminals can forge anything." Agent Thompson from the FBI stepped forward. "Ma'am, I can confirm Agent Vasquez's credentials. I spoke with her supervisor this afternoon." "Then you're all part of the conspiracy," Brenda shouted. That's when Roberto stood up with his forensic accounting report. While we're talking about criminal activity, he announced, perhaps we should discuss the $47,000 Mrs. Hutchinson has embezzled from community funds over the past 2 years. The room exploded. Residents started shouting questions. The news reporter practically tackled Roberto for an interview. That's impossible, Brenda whispered. Actually, Roberto continued, it's all documented. Shell companies, false invoices, personal credit card charges, everything. Elena looked at me and smiled. And that, she said quietly, is how you catch a real criminal. The community center erupted like a shaken soda bottle. Residents who'd been quietly sitting suddenly came alive. $47,000, Harold's voice cut through the chaos. That's why our pool maintenance has been garbage for 2 years? Brenda grabbed the microphone. This is exactly what I warned you about. They're using disinformation tactics to discredit my investigation. The Channel 12 reporter pushed closer. Mrs. Hutchinson, are you denying the embezzlement allegations? I'm saying this is all part of the conspiracy, Brenda shrieked. Officer Rodriguez had heard enough. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and answer some questions about these financial allegations. Sarah stood up next. According to Arizona revised statutes, theft of community funds exceeding $10,000 constitutes a Class 3 felony. The documented evidence shows systematic embezzlement over a 2-year period. Brenda's supporters began backing away from her. I demand to see this so-called evidence, Brenda announced. Roberto opened his laptop and connected it to the projection system. Within seconds, the screen filled with spreadsheets and bank statements. Desert Management Solutions, Roberto announced. Registered to a P.O. box that Mrs. Hutchinson controls. $31,000 in payments for services never rendered. Pinnacle Landscaping Services. $16,000 for beautification that never happened. And my personal favorite, community credit card purchases at Target, Walmart, and a weekend resort in Sedona. The dam burst completely. Residents started shouting about every maintenance issue, every delayed repair, every corner that had been cut. Elena chose that moment to deliver the coup de grace. Ma'am, she said, you've spent 6 months filing false reports against a federal agent while committing the exact type of financial crimes I investigate for a living. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so pathetic. Brenda's face cycled through emotions. You can't prove any of this. These documents are forged. Officer Rodriguez was already reading from his notepad. Mrs. Hutchinson, based on the evidence presented tonight, I'm placing you under arrest for theft in the first degree, a Class 3 felony under Arizona law. The handcuffs clicked with the same metallic sound that had started this whole saga. As Rodriguez led Brenda toward the door, she turned back. This isn't over. When the truth comes out, you'll all see who the real criminals are. Elena called out sweetly. Ma'am, the truth did come out. It just wasn't the truth you were expecting. The room erupted in applause. The news camera captured it all. Someone started chanting, "Justice, justice," until the whole room joined in. The aftermath unfolded like the most satisfying revenge movie ever filmed. Within 48 hours, Channel 12's footage had gone viral. By weekend, we were fielding calls from CNN, Fox News, and every morning show wanting to cover the HOA Karen who tried to arrest a real federal agent. Brenda's legal troubles multiplied like Arizona tumbleweeds. Maricopa County filed theft charges. The FBI opened investigations into false reports. The IRS discovered her consulting companies had never filed tax returns. She pleaded guilty to everything, agreeing to pay full restitution plus penalties totaling $78,000. The community recovered every stolen penny through her forced asset liquidation, including the sale of her beige fortress. But here's where this story gets beautiful. Instead of just refilling HOA coffers, our new board created the Willowbrook Community Scholarship Fund. Every year, we award 3 $5,000 scholarships to local kids whose families demonstrate financial need, turning Brenda's theft into opportunities for deserving students. Roberto manages the scholarship fund with transparent accounting. Elena serves as advisory board chair because having a federal financial crimes investigator. Review your books tends to keep everyone honest. Our transformation became a model for HOA reform across the Southwest. We've hosted delegations from communities in Texas, Nevada, and California seeking to implement our Willowbrook Transparency Protocol. Elena's federal credentials became neighborhood treasure. Local crime dropped to essentially zero once word spread that we had a real federal agent in residence. Kids started calling her agent Elena. My telecommunications business exploded after our story went viral. Turns out being known as the guy who helped expose HOA corruption made me incredibly popular. I now provide financial transparency consulting across 3 states. The practical takeaway: always demand quarterly financial audits with independent oversight. It's the single most effective way to prevent HOA corruption. Elena speaks at federal training seminars about employee harassment and has become the Justice Department's go-to expert on HOA-related crimes. The real victory is our annual Accountability Day celebration held every October on the anniversary of Brenda's arrest. What started as a block party has become a regional festival celebrating community governance reform. Property values increased 30%. Not because of oppressive conformity, but because people want to live in communities known for integrity and actual justice. Last month's follow-up news story featured Elena giving advice that's become our community motto. Document everything, follow the money, and never underestimate the power of neighbors working together for what's right. As I write this, our investigation team is consulting with communities across America dealing with corrupt officials. Here's my challenge for you. What's your worst HOA horror story? Drop it in the comments below. I guarantee some of you have nightmare tales that make Brenda look like an amateur. Smash that subscribe button for HOA stories if you love watching corrupt power trippers get exactly the justice they deserve. We've got a whole library of satisfaction coming your way. From all of us here at HOA Stories, thanks so much for watching today's HOA Karen Meltdown. If you enjoyed seeing neighbors stand their ground in karma catch-up, smash that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you won't miss the next HOA drama we bring you.